Reverend Pam Geagan here, and with a heavy heart for those who remain, it is difficult to announce the transition of our beautiful Reverend Betty Ann Brennan, our assistant minister. She was a wife, an aunt, a friend, a minister, of course, and so much more, who entered the heaven world April 16th after she experienced a massive stroke. She was stroked, as Ram Dass used to say about his experience. She was stroked only 3 days before celebrating her 66th wedding anniversary to her beloved husband, Ralph. We'll miss her practical spiritual wisdom, her beautiful unconditional love, wit, laughter, stories, and generous spirit. One of her last quotes appears to be prophetic. I set my spiritual sails to catch the winds of change that propel me into wonderful new experiences. We miss you, Reverend Betty Ann, but we know you'll remain closer to us than our hands and feet and the breath we breathe as your life and all of our lives continue onward and upward. Life forever is. Your profound words of wisdom, my life is unfolding perfectly no matter what, remain and will inspire the multitudes throughout eternity. Blessed be Betty Ann. We love you with all our hearts. Good Sunday afternoon. This is Reverend Pam Geagan welcoming you to the Center for Spiritual Living, Pleasant Valley in Camarillo, California. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good Sunday, everybody. I'm Reverend Lynn Chaplin-Noe from the Center for Spiritual Living, Pleasant Valley in beautiful Camarillo, California, and welcome to our service today, which is going to be terrific. Of course, we have our spiritual leader, Reverend Pamela Geagan, and Pamela Bailey is our lead practitioner. She'll be giving us treatment, Buzz Noe with the buzz, telling us what's happening, and a really big treat today, Reverend Mike McMorrow, a wonderful author and wonderful minister, will be sharing dialogue with Rev Pam today. It's going to be really exciting. So here we have our vision statement, awakening humanity to its spiritual magnificence. And the way we do that is teaching and demonstrating spiritual principles for living an abundant and fulfilling life in a welcoming and compassionate community. And of course, we have our flames of faith. We believe there is one power, one source, and there are many paths to that source. And by lighting these candles of faith, we honor all religions, Buddhism, Sufism, Hinduism, Christianity, all others that step forward in love. There is that one fine thread that connects all religions, and that thread is love. We are love. We come from love, and we honor our oneness within us all. And now, of course, it's my honor today to read you Reverend Betty Ann Brennan's quote for the day. Today, I make a commitment to put God first in my life, knowing that God is bigger than any problem or challenge I may be facing or will ever face. And in this consciousness, in this awareness, let's all hold the high watch of Reverend Betty Ann Brennan as she experiences and expresses her totality and her wholeness in this moment. Thank you. And now it's time for, I think it's Pamela Bailey, who's got something to say to us.
Yes, she does.
Good.
I believe so. Am I on?
Yep.
Okay. Good. I see Betty Ann's quote still. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome on this beautiful spring day. We are here together having the service today, and we're learning about constructing one's consciousness, constructing one's life, constructing actual buildings and things from our wonderful Reverend Mike. So let us take this time to simply sit quietly, however you enjoy doing it, and just take a couple of breaths. And as we go into this service today, I start with an attitude of gratitude. Gratitude for all those who are here, and gratitude for this life in this nation at this time. And as I know that God is all there is, and that is intelligence and presence and wisdom and creation and love and generosity and life itself. And I know that I too am in the flow of all of that life is right now pressing up and flowing through each and every one of us. And I am open to that flow. I am allowing goodness to come in. I am allowing it to flow out and to be shared. I am allowing what is to simply be, and I accept it as this is how life is at this moment. And so knowing that all of us are on this path together, I am grateful, and I am knowing that there is a healing presence, there is an encouraging presence, and there is a powerful presence right here, right now. And we are it is in the midst of me and each and every one of us, and it is flowing forward, carrying life itself along. For this, I am so grateful, and I release this treatment knowing it is already done, and together we say, and so it is.
Hi.
Pamela introduces Bill Rotella.
Hi, and now it is my honor to introduce our Bill Rotella, who is in Palm Desert right now. So he sent us a YouTube video. He's rolling out a new album, and so we'll be hearing songs from that next time he's with us. But in the interim, here's Morning Star with Bill Rotella.
dream your dreams. Then wake me with your light, bright as the sun. Wherever you go, love just grows, and I love you more than you could know. Your candle shining in my heart, my morning star. I'm never far where you are, morning star. Yes, life is fine because you're my morning star.
Oh, thank you, Bill. I know that Palm Desert is, this is going to be a great experience for you. But now it's my joy to introduce our wonderful poet laureate, our in-house poet laureate, Buzz Noe with What's the Buzz?
Thank you, Reverend Pam. And we will be soon hearing from Reverend Pam and Reverend Mike McMorrow with words of wisdom that we could all borrow. Blue Collar Spirituality is the title for their talk. It will connect you with spirit, no matter which path you walk. I'm excited to hear what they have to say. For now, here are the announcements for today. At 9 a.m. weekdays on Facebook Live, Reverend Pam's morning meditations will allow you to thrive. This week's theme remains Law of Attraction. It will help bring you divine perfection into action. At Thursdays, also on Facebook Live at 7 p.m., our midweek spiritual uplift will boost your divine drive. Lisa Coffey is the host for this week's session. Raja Yoga is the title for her lesson. It will remind us of the importance of spiritual meditation and how it empowers our divine dedication. At 10 a.m. on the 25th, the fourth Sunday of the month, Lisa Coffey will be back with a lesson you will want. Swami S. is this month's special guest. His words and wisdom will make you feel blessed. So please join in with Lisa on Zoom prior to the Sunday lesson. Constant Contact has the link info for you to attend this session. And do keep in mind that our center is always here for you, so please let us know what we can do. The spiritual treatment that we provide will lessen your stress and allow you to thrive. You can call and leave a request by phone, or send us an email from wherever you roam. We trust someday soon we can meet again live, but until then our center will help us to thrive. So do please donate to keep our center going so we can be here to keep your wellness flowing. 2 other places where you can lend a hand, so please do give them whatever you can. Ventura County Rescue Mission provides the homeless with much good, and Ventura County Food Share feeds the needy in our hood. A reminder that our center is part of Ralph's Community Contribution Program. A portion of whatever you spend at the store gives our center a small donation or more. So please do sign up or simply renew, and Ralph's will contribute at no cost to you. Our center's code number is JE859. You can sign up at the store or do it online. Another way to help our center for a while is to shop online using Amazon Smile. When you complete your purchase for the items you got, it'll donate to our center right on the spot. And finally, Wednesday this week, we will celebrate our Earth, the planet that provides all life with new birth. And that's it for the announcements and where we'll all go. I'm happy now to turn you over to Reverend Lynn Chaplain Noe. She is here as our practitioner of the day, and I'm excited to hear what she has to say.
Thank you, Buzz. That's terrific. Hey, spiritual travelers out there, are you stuck? The Center for Spiritual Living theme for April is Stepping into the Unknown. And sometimes when we're just tooling along on our spiritual path, we step in something, right? We get a little stuck. And we're all on a path that leads to the truth of God as me. And we find ourselves unable to move forward sometimes because of, and you can insert your stuckness right here. And it could be unworthiness or fear or doubt or let me see, any other thing that you can put in there. Life happens. Who uses that one? I'm sorry, I'm stuck right here because life just happens. And so our guest today, Mike McMorrow, has written a great book called Blue Collar Spirituality, Finding a God That Works. And in it, he refers to stuckness. And that's what I want to talk about right now, and about practical spirituality. Sometimes on our path, new appears to us and we get excited and we call it a blessing. And while at the same time, with all this newness, it causes a little uncertainty and we tend to hesitate and not move forward. And CSL has a wonderful word that they've given for this combination of feeling the blessing and experiencing uncertainty or hesitating. And they call it blessed citation. It sounds like a Beach Boys song. I'm feeling that blessed citation. It sounds funny, but it is what happens to us. We feel excited with the newness, and then we have uncertainty and we hesitate, and that's when we get stuck. CSL also speaks of something that they call practical spirituality. And our spiritual practice, no matter what it is, needs to work for us in our lives. We've created a life for ourselves, and we create our spiritual practice to support that and buoy us. And it needs to be practical, our spiritual practice, and usable. Now, I've coined a phrase. That's why we always remind you to engage in our spiritual practice. Spiritual practice is practical spirituality, period. And guess who creates that for you? Yeah, you. So here's a statement that CSL makes that speaks to the term blessed citation. Let me find it here. When we hesitate or experience hesitation on our path, it is symptomatic of embracing separation. We need only to realign and remember the core concept that oneness is our nature and life's nature. The hesitation we experience in our life is a blessing. It offers an opportunity to remember the fundamental truth that God is all in our life. There isn't this life or God's life. There's only one life. So instead of 3 quotes today, and that actually was a quote from CSL, but instead of 3 quotes, I'm going to ask you 3 questions, and you can jot them down now, or you could email Centers for Spiritual Living Pleasant Valley, and I'll see if you can find me there. I'm one of the practitioners and the minister, and I'll send you the quotes, the questions. So here's question number 1, and you want to take this out in your week. Where in your past can you look back and realize the evolution of spirit taking place when you didn't understand it at the time? That's interesting. Number 2 question. If you are experiencing hesitation in life, thus not trusting God, where are you actually placing your trust then? As opposed, this is number 3, as opposed to conditions changing or someone else doing something for you, what must you become today to move forward through this blessitation? I remember last week, Dr. Sue said, who will I be when I get through being the person I thought I was supposed to be? Something like that. Well, who must you become today to move forward through your stuckness? So if you want these questions, I said, email our Center for Spiritual Living, Pleasant Valley. So let's have a brief treatment on moving forward, shall we? So let's close our eyes if you like. Take that expansive, deep breath and immediately become aware of this presence, this kingdom of rightness, this wholeness, this spirit. This is God. God is all in all, everywhere present, and I am the divine individualized expression of God. Therefore, God's life is my life. This is my service by means of God. This is our church by means of God. This is my life by means of God, as it expresses perfectly through and by means of me. Above and beyond the appearance of whatever may be happening, as Reverend Betty Ann says, no matter what is happening, there is a blessing. So this stopping and taking a pause and hesitating is a moment to immerse yourself and myself into this moment, this presence, this truth that God as me is making the choices. I move forward with joy, with freedom, with excitement. Even if there is hesitation, there might be a little skip in it. I'm so grateful for these loving truths. As I release them now into the law of mind, I allow the law of mind to take care of the details while I enjoy my wonderful unstuck journey. And together we say, and so it is. Whoa. And so it is. Back to the land of the living. It's time now for a real treat. It's my pleasure to introduce our musical inspiration for the day and my boy, Daniel Berkman. Take it away, Dan.
Thanks, Mom. That was sublime. Thank you so much for that. I am going to play a little improvisation on an instrument called the kora. It's a 21-stringed harp from West Africa. Yeah, and I'm playing in a different tuning, sort of an experimental tuning, sort of a pentatonic tuning.
Oh, Danny, I'm in pure bliss. Thank you so much. Thank you. And you brought
You're
all
welcome.
the beauty. Danny just came in from Costa Rica and you brought that inspiration back with you. It's just beautiful, honey. Thank you. And I so
Thank you.
appreciate what your mom said in her treatment and how now it is my honor to introduce our guest speaker. It's the wonderful His Eminence, His Righteousness, Reverend Mike McMorrow from Center for Spiritual Living, Granada Hills in California. Welcome, Mike.
Great to be here, Reverend Pam, and great to
Yes.
be with everyone else. That was an amazing performance. Buzz, that was the best I've ever heard announcements. No, seriously, Daniel, that was amazing. I've never heard anything like it. Y'all need to make that a little snippet on YouTube. That was amazing, really.
Well, it's interesting because Spencer has already using his music, and then in some of our uplifts, we use it for Danny too. But
Yeah.
Danny has his own channel, and so for those listening, it's a Daniel Berkman. And how did you just Daniel Berkman YouTube, Danny, or you're on mute, Danny?
I noticed. Daniel Well, there's a link tree, which is which I put up there. Was it the link tree? Anyway, danielberkman.com will get you far.
Oh, and Spencer, we all are your greatest fans, but Spence especially he just says you're the greatest musician he's ever met. So
Thank
Danny,
you, Spence.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Enough of this.
Yeah.
Let's go back to His Righteousness, His Eminence, our wonderful
Yeah.
Reverend Mike McMorrow, who's also a friend. And I am just so delighted you're with us today. And also that we're introducing you right now as an author. You have written a wonderful book that has made life so much, the principles are as deep as any principles, and yet you make them workable. And it is Blue Collar Spirituality, a God that works. And it works. It's an amazing book. And so I would like it's about, you follow, one of the brilliant things that you've done in this is you follow a construction career, which everybody can relate to, like building a house or anything like that. And applied spiritual tools that we can apply in everyday life. And so I would like you, and it's about your journey. Now I would like you to open with that poem that you wrote in 2010, and it's begins your journey, and so begins the journey.
Right. Well, first, before I get into that, just to kind of set the moment and set the tone of Blue Collar Spirituality, I just thought I would slip into something a little more comfortable because it's Reverend Pam, and I knew this was going to be a fun day.
I think you should be, I'm sure they have them, but you should be the minister, the minister that gives us a lot of laughs. I don't know what you call them. I don't want to say it, the joke minister, but the comedian, the minister, the comedian minister. Oh gosh,
Okay.
Mike. This is how I know you. This is how I know you.
All right. So for Blue Collar Spirituality, thank you, Reverend Pam, for having me here. You're one of my favorite people, and I think you're the funniest minister I know. So there you go.
Oh.
So here's a poem. I start this out from the book. This is from a day that I was working at years ago, and it's entitled "For Anyone Who Works Outside." For anyone who works outside. So one cold January morning on Discovery Bay, frigid and icy, geese honking, stuck in the frozen pond, I consider revenge for yesterday's violation by the gander of 5. With drizzle softly falling, we scrape the ice from the concrete slab, preparing for the chalk-lined snap, laying out a room for a life yet to be realized. The winds blow now, driving the drizzle turned sleet down the back of my, till now, warm woolen neck. And still we scrape and snap, clearing the deck of yesterday's scrap and waste, making way for new walls waiting to be nailed together, stood in place, plumbed, lined and true. Now, with the north wind bearing down harder still, we surrender to the now, sideways driven rain. We pick up our rain-soaked tools, roll up our cords, and take shelter in the truck, our refuge of warmth, thawing our soaked through jeans. And reaching under the seat, we take a long pull on the flask saved just for this moment, cursing in our clothes, steam rising now, sodden with the tempest just unleashed upon us. We start the truck, heading for home, turning from the gravel path onto the St. George Road, into the brilliant sunshine, behind the storm, as we realize we've just weathered a cold front passing through. We look at each other, beads of thawed water trickling off the end of our nose, and I think to myself, next winter, California.
So perfect. Will you tell us a little bit about your journey now from from construction to contractor, having your own business, and then into ministry?
Yeah, well, I've always been kind of a reflective guy, and I came of age in the 70s, and I moved to a place called Port Townsend, Washington, which is near Cape George Road. And my dad, who came up to visit me, told me at the time, I always wondered where all the hippies went after San Francisco, and now I know. So it was kind of one of those places. And even though I was raised in a Catholic situation, a very strict Catholic upbringing, I was exposed to a lot of what I would come to know later, New Thought ideas, which I thought was just like hippie religion. And so going through the years, that's where I started my construction career, and lots of flasks, lots of thirsty evenings. So I had to do something about that. And then in recovery, I learned I started exploring this idea of a higher power, right? So in 12-step, they encourage folks to think of the spirit as a higher power, so folks don't get into arguments around religion, right? And so it was 13 years of that. After I got the plug in the jug and kept it there, I found my way to religious science. And by this time, I had been a carpenter for many years and a building contractor. And I heard this notion that there's a power for good in the universe available to everyone, right? I was like, even me, right?
Yeah.
And you can use it. And so I used my construction company to prove these principles. And so this book is kind of that story in a way, but really what it is using our working life as a metaphor to how to find the spirit that, we're stepping over, right? We're stepping over dollars to pick up a nickel, right? Because the spirit is around all over the place. And so I really work to keep it in plain talk and in direct language. And so the beginning just kind of defines the problem of working life, of anyone's life, really. So, this book can be read by anyone and get something out of it. But particularly people who are so busy working and maybe even struggling and looking to find a way to get a purchase in their life to make a new start. And so that was my intention, and to keep it simple. So the first 3 chapters are, there's no God talk, right? It's just problems. And then then there's a transition chapter that talks about, well, there's a power, a higher power thing. And then the last chapter is just the big reveal. And look, it's God. And, and then how to find that that's true for you, right? So I really try to make it to encourage the reader that to just know that this is my path. This has been my answer. So now what's true for you?
You know, it's an amazing book, and I'm telling you, for those who are already religious scientists and have spent years and years and years in the teaching, it is amazing because you have these different goals that you have and these different chapters that you have, and then you have a worksheet at every single one, which really helps everybody bring that practicality, bring that mysticism into practicality. But I also want to find out from you, first of all, your dads. I just invite anybody that wants to. I love the Irish humor of your dad.
Yeah.
I was so taken with the humor in the book. And as I am certainly still a novice, as I think I know a lot sometimes. And then I read a book like this that outlines how I could know and deepen so much more my spiritual practices. But I love the humor in this book. You highlight throughout it how you know a lot of friends in low places and they got you where you are today. But the parts that, and I want to go into those lessons and how they're so simple and yet so profound and yet so easy to comprehend. And as you said, you're not pushing God, Spirit, Jesus, anything down anybody's throat. You're saying if you want a better life, you do these. But you talk about your mystical oneness all of a sudden going down the 405, and this is my territory, 405 by the Getty Center. For those who aren't in California, it is the busiest freeway ever. Tell us how you all of a sudden awakened to there was something mystical within inside you, and you felt like you were one with that moment.
Yeah, well, the story behind that is, so I came to a Science of Mind church because I was at the beginning of a painful divorce, and I had this book, Emmett Fox's book, Sermon on the Mount, and I had been reading this to start my day with. And one day I noticed, about a month into this this journey, one day I noticed that someone had written in a fountain pen, Science of Mind, on the inside jacket. And I thought, maybe they can do something about my thinking. Because I was just stuck, when you get stuck in the pain, it's just like, a hamster on a wheel, man. It was just, there was just no peace. And so I got out the yellow pages and found, so one of the centers was down the street from my former mother-in-law's house. There's no way I was going to do a drive-by on a Sunday, right? That's out. And then there was some place called Granada Hills, and I hit it off with Dr. Maureen right away, Reverend Maureen then. And she too has a good sense of humor, and that was really important. So anyway, I was doing classes with her, and I had made up my mind that I wasn't going to have a judgment around this place until I had gone to 5 consecutive Sundays in a row, which is how I decided whether an AA meeting was any good, right? Because sometimes you can hit a good one or a bad one, and in a row, which means commitment, right? And so it was after, and then I got into she got me into a class straight away and so forth. And so I started to learn these things. And so I'm driving down the 405 on my way to the job site. And it was just one of those magic moments where the pain had just kind of lifted. And all of a sudden, everything just kind of clicked into place. And I realized that it was all perfect, that my former wife was perfect. I was perfect. It was no one's fault. It was a bad match. And all the things that led up to that. And then I kind of had a sense that it was going to be okay, and that I was okay. And I even realized, oh my gosh, I'm having a moment, right? And then of course you try to grasp onto it, and then it just goes whoosh, right? And that's the one sure way to, lose touch with it. But it stuck with me. And like I said in the book, I've had, many experiences like that. Like just kind of like in the way that you get the whiff of a rose as you're walking by, right? It's just kind of a sense. So you can't see the rose, right? You don't know what color it is, but you get a sense, that it's there. And I've met many, many people over the years who can relate to that. But you have to start paying attention, which was the point in the book. And that's what had happened for me.
First of all, I love, I always say the rose is the thing itself. It is the fragrance of the rose that we chase, and that we want that moment of that sweetness of life. And yet the rose is still waiting there for us. It's just but it gets our attention, so to speak. That's interesting that we have that same metaphor. And metaphorically throughout this book, I love, you compare construction to life, and how you can construct things. And I even, the equipment, like instead of a hard hat, you highlight in your book the hard heart that has to have that wall come down. What do you think was you already named a couple. Was there any moment where you could really let down that wall from what was protecting you and the anesthetizing yourself, it sounds like, with alcohol, and doing all the anesthesia, all the things that make you calm and that are out in the outer? What made you come into the inner? Was there one moment, or they just all added up?
Well, I think when you get a strong teacher of new thought principles, and you really want to change your life, right? You just can't glaze, I just call it like glazing the horse turd. You can't do that, right?
No, right? You can't.
You can't. You take caramel and you dip it into a horse turd and bite into it. It's still a horse turd, right? So, right. So you got to do the work underneath it. And when you have a skilled teacher, they encourage you to do the inventory around it and to understand that what we're healing is the thought behind the pain, and not the pain is just the symptom, right? And so, because the truth is, as we come to practice this, and this is not in the book because, a guy would take it and just toss it away as being too much woo-woo, right? But the idea is to entice the guy to be curious, to go looking for one of these centers, either religious science or unity. But the idea then is when we go deeper, really what we get to see is that there's a pattern of perfection within this indwelling presence. That's not only expressing, but longing to express more, right? So the creative impulse is looking for avenues for its expression. Now, I said it much simpler in the book. In fact, I don't think I even said it that way. But what I'm hoping that the book will draw, because I tell you, the people who've been buying the book most are women buying it for the men that they love, whether they're sons, grandsons, husbands, right? And like that Al-Anon trick of leaving the literature on the nightstand. I just vision this book being left on the nightstand of the husband, whom they've been having this conversation, and maybe this book can help. Oh, okay, now I see what you're talking about. It's not really a bunch of woo-woo, right? Which is what I used to think, right? And then there was like you were talking about the hard heart. I realized there was, I wouldn't say I was a raging homophobe, but I really wasn't interested in healing any of my thinking around that. I'll tell you that, right? But when I realized that it wasn't about sex as much as that it was about love. Right. And then I
Very
actually got to
interesting, yeah.
know, and then I actually got to know some gay guys. Like I have a couple guys who I'm still close with after all these years. And one day I realized that they had been together longer than all of my marriages put together. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm judging them, right? Right?
They worked it out. That's right.
Right. So,
Oh.
and it really is about allowing the power of the healing agency of love itself, and not to be afraid to soften up. Right.
Oh.
And
Oh.
and to understand, I love men. I do love
Yes.
men. I've worked with men my entire life. I have 6 brothers.
Oh
Right?
my God.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I've always loved men, and I think, oh, well, gee, if I love them, does that mean, that I want to, No, of course not. Right. So,
Oh my gosh. But you love women too. You're very good with women. I mean, not very,
well, thank you.
you're very, no, I mean, you're so welcoming is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And you don't feel like there's a separation. So you're good with both. And
Yeah.
I credit that to your mom. You were very close to your
Yes.
mom.
Yeah.
So I think that the blessing for you is, I forgot you had the 6 brothers. So the blessing for you is that you had some feminine presence in there to
Sure.
bring it out, that feminine side of you. Because we have the feminine and the masculine, and it's sometimes they cross over a lot.
Well, and I have to tell you, it was in religious science class that I realized, I'm a sensitive guy.
Yes.
I'm wired that way. And I've always hated that about me. Right. I always wanted to be the tall, silent type who never said much.
Yeah.
But I'm not wired that way. And that it's actually a strength. Right. If I come at it from a place of healing, whereas I'm not thin-skinned, for instance. Right. So that I'm
Yeah.
not taking everything personally that people say to me, and you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So and I, and when the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Well, that's kind of, that's how that anger thing worked for me. So a lot of it was just, I thought I was angry about everything, but no, I was feeling, frustrated, disrespected, insecure. There was just like, a myriad of things under this stuff that I said, oh, I'm just angry, or I'm just Irish. Right. And right. I'm Irish. That's the way no, you're an immature jerk. And you're now in your 40s and it's time to grow up.
Patrick would always say, he said the difference between an Irishman and an Englishman or an American is the Irishman and the Englishman are walking along, and the Englishman looks up and sees this huge mansion and says, look at this mansion. Isn't that magnificent? And the other guy says, I want to burn down. The Irishman says, I'm going to burn that sucker's house down. Because they were always, and the Irish that I know, including you, have such depth, and they have such mysticism about them too underneath. There's he always saw the Irish as very angry too, and bringing it forth in a lot of who they were. So I want to know now, and you talk about this in your book too, is you were this person, as we know, that was figuring it all out, using different ways to figure it out, while you were also building houses and building a consciousness. How did you get to know the difference between suffering and inner knowing and making choices?
Yeah.
You talk about this in your book, and I thought it was very profound.
Yeah, well, part of it started with the M. Scott Peck book,
Yeah.
The Road Less Traveled.
Oh, yeah.
So I discovered that years ago in my early sobriety. And the opening lines are, life is difficult. Well, I was in my early 30s at the time, maybe my late 20s, and I thought, and I kept thinking, life shouldn't be this hard, right? This should be easier. I should have more money. It should be, you know, what's going on? And then you go, life is difficult. And like, oh, oh, really? And so that was the seed notion. And then again, in religious science, as I'm taking these classes, and I'm sure you can learn this stuff at Landmark or whatever. And I was also seeing a therapist at the same time that I was doing science of mind, right? And I have to tell you the amazing thing about that. So the last time I did one of those deals, I went through a boatload of money. Like it's like a year and a half, right? Now I'm doing it with religious science. And the therapist, after about 8 weeks, said, you know, you really don't need to come here unless you really feel like you need to. You just need, you are one of the most, you have great instincts, and for whatever reason you don't trust them. And I think you just need some time just to do that and to trust your own judgment and so forth, right? And so it was kind of a combination of that, and I had a really strong 12-step program. So part of 12-step is doing a moral inventory, recognizing that we have character defects, knowing that, you know, we're making a commitment to heal from those, even knowing that we're going to come up short sometimes. Yeah. And so when I came to religious science, then I just learned to reframe that. Instead of a defect, I have an error in thought. I have an error in thought. I have to shift this error. Yeah. And one of the other things that I developed over here is a thing called shift and lift. So there's a chapter in there. Remember the crowbar? Yes. How do you lift something? You get a purchase on it and you lift it just a little bit, and then you move it. And then you lift a little more and then you move it. And so that's kind of the way it was, right? So I had a realization that that's the way I kind of work through all of this painful stuff, right? Wow. And pain is all relative anyway.
Yeah, it is. You know, you wrote also, I'm going to read this quote because I loved it. Again, from the deathbed to the truck bed, any condition can be shifted to the better when we apply the power of living consciously to the mix. And I know you're thinking of the concrete mix and all of it. And I think you just spoke to that beautifully, is that when you apply that power of knowing who you are, living consciously and getting who you are and bringing those strengths. Right. Am I right about that? Is that, that's what I heard.
Right.
Anyway,
and because to me, that is the benefit of new thought, whether you're coming through the united or the unity perspective, which is much more biblical, or through religious science or divine science, any of the other modalities. It's basically, we're learning to live consciously. And because once we become aware of something, if it's no longer serving us, well, let's do a mental treatment to shift that thought into something that's more affirming. Well, how do you say that to working guys who, you know, you're only going to have their attention for about 15 minutes at a throw, right?
Yes, exactly.
So, and so I took the book and I just stripped it, trying to make it read as fast as possible, so that, and I actually thought it was a pretty shallow book, to be honest with you.
Oh no.
I totally did. And then so I've developed a class around it now, and I wanted to do it in 6 weeks, 6 classes. So 1 for each chapter. But man, I was like, I'm putting this class in, like, shit, there's a lot more stuff in here than I realized.
It is. I think some of the greatest teachings are profoundly simple. And in that simplicity, it takes a lot to bring it down to the understanding of all, that they can embrace it and use it. And you know, you write about what you just said is about you have to shift that, but also, which I love also in the book, it wasn't just about shifting the mental attitude, it's about living from the heart. And you write about the importance of making time for meditation and not becoming a slave to your calendar, social media, or the phone. And I say, explain that one, Lucy. How do we do this?
Well, and I never used the term meditation.
Oh, I made that up.
No,
What
no,
did you say? Quietude?
I
What did you say?
I shouldn't say never, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I did towards the end. I can't remember, but I tried to say quiet time.
You did say quiet time, and I shifted it.
Right.
I'm sorry. Not sorry. No, it's an awareness. Yeah.
Well, no, if a guy makes time to just be still,
yes,
eventually he may get to a meditative state. But we know that there's a difference there, right?
Yeah.
But if I'd have said meditation, then they're like, oh gosh, more hippie talk. So the idea was just to make some quiet time, just to be still. And to understand that we have a lot more power in our life. So I use the calendar as the first metaphor, that, you know, we think that we are controlled by the calendar, but the truth is we control the calendar because we're the ones who put stuff in it. And that's one of the most practical places where we are at choice. Of course, as a minister, I would love people to choose to be at Sunday service or choose to come to a Science of Mind class or a New Thought class, just because I know how much my own life changed. But it's not just wishing and hoping. You have to do the work. That's my only rub with some of these modalities is, they make it sound like if you just want it enough, it's going to happen. And I think that's a tremendous disservice. You have to you have to have a seed thought or a spiritual prototype, as we say, but you have to have that seed thought with enough focus on it to where it really gets down into our subconscious, or what we call the subjective, if we want to demonstrate effectively. If we really, the surface stuff is good, but if we really want to have that sea change within, we're going to have to be still. We're going to have to go to the places we're afraid to visit, and to know that the light of spirit is always available.
I love that. I could talk to you forever on this. Will you come back and we'll go even deeper into this at some point when your schedule allows? I know you're busy every Sunday morning. Yes. And there's a whole section about the toolbox and the different tools, and that is what the workbook is all about too. And so I want to go into that. I would like you to end, though, if you so choose. Yes. You do an epilogue on the book. You just finished this book just at the beginning of the COVID and the worldwide challenges all of us are facing this last year. Would you like to end on any? What you said was very profound in the end. Is there anything you want to wrap it up with that? Once that book was done, you could use all of those tools to help us through this last year. But what can you say? What can you share?
And of course, the irony is that trial is going on now.
Yes.
So
yes.
I'll just read the first two paragraphs.
Thank you.
Because it kind of sets the tone of where it was at, and just to go, oh my God. So the epilogue reads, you would think a guy who's had your attention for nearly 100 pages would be spent and have nothing left to say. Yeah, that's what I thought too. But then all hell broke loose. By all accounts, we're in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. At the time of this writing, this epilogue, which was June 2020, it looks like we're going to have to ride this out for another 10 months. So far, 110,000 people have died. By the time you read this, that number will have likely grown. People have been safe at home for 3 months now. It threatens to set us back on a slow growth recovery that could take a decade to dig out from, even as some are telling us that it's going to be fine and it's time to get back to work. And still, we're in for 10 more months of precautions for a foe we cannot see and whose presence makes itself known only when someone is sick, possibly infecting scores of others in its wake. And then I just speak to the disparity that has been shown itself through the pandemic. And regardless of where you come down on this, from a political perspective, both sides are recognizing that there's a lot of carnage. I mean, we're arguing about how to emerge and how to deal with it, but we're not arguing the fact that something needs to be done, right?
No.
And
yes, something has to be done. No, we're
yeah,
not
and
arguing
so,
about that.
and it's going to be, there's recognizing that each one of us is the point of power, regardless of where we are on the political spectrum, to make that change. And it needs to be free of white supremacy and some of these other things. I would even say the predatory aspects of corporate capitalism that have kept people bound, including many, many white working people. It really, Dr. King talked about the need to raise the entire working class together if we are really going to address this issue. And, I think the world would have been a different place had he not been assassinated, because he really kind of articulated it. So the epilogue is really the only place where I got any pushback, because my conservative friends kind of went, wow, really? And the truth is that I'm a very much of a small business guy. I think that, business is a great place to prove the principles of religious science, because what is business? It starts with a seed thought. It starts with a thought. That's all it is. And then all these other things come in to support it. And the demonstration is the business itself. Hopefully, profitability, and to raise the ships of everyone involved so that everyone prospers. And I think when we live consciously as business people, as working people, and certainly as religious scientists, right? We truly can create a world that works for everyone, but it's got to start in consciousness. And then we have to do what's ours to do. And that's its own calling, isn't it?
Yes, I think it absolutely. And everybody has a ministry. As I think Marianne Williamson said, if you have a phone book or people in this kind in your phone, you've got a ministry right there. And also to embrace the pain. Obviously, there's a lot of pain in those who are in so much judgment about others. It's really interesting to me. On this note, this has been fabulous for me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And just blessings galore. Will you come back sometime?
Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
Oh, great. And I am so delighted that you're in my life. That's it. Have a blessed rest of your day. And I'll be watching you on the Facebook page.
All
Bye.
right.
Mwah. Bye.
Love
See you.
you.
Thank you. Love you too. And here is another person I'm so happy to bring back, and that's Daniel Berkman. Hi, Danny.
Hello. Thank you, Reverend Mike. That was awesome.
Yes.
All right. I am going to play another improvisation with my electric kora. This is the kora that I brought with me to Costa Rica, and it proved to be quite a great traveling companion. So I'm happy to share this with you. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Danny, thank you so much. Now it is my honor to introduce. I was muted. Now it is. I'm blissed out, and it's now my honor to introduce your mom, Reverend Lynn Chaplain Noe, with our offertory and our giving opportunities.
Thanks, Rev Pam. I saw your mouth moving.
Always. Thanks, Lynn.
What a wonderful morning, and I'm so grateful for this wonderful service and the music, and Reverend Mike was delightful. So to show my appreciation, I'm going to share this offertory with you while you express God in action, as Dr. Sue calls money. So repeat after me, or I say this along with me, please. Divine love blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. And that's the way it is. And of course, there are just so many ways to support our center, which is still there. You know, the building is still there. So thank you for watching our Sunday service. And if you feel like you've received value from this experience, support our ministry with a tax-deductible donation. And you can visit our website at www.csl-pleasantvalley.org, and we accept PayPal and Zelle. And of course, there's the old-fashioned way, and you can use the mail. Mail us your appreciation, and we so appreciate it ourselves. Your sacred donations are more than ever appreciated, so mail them to CSL Pleasant Valley, 221 East Daly Drive, Suite number 1, Camarillo, California, 93010. And again, our website is www.csl-pleasantvalley.org. And remember, I asked you those 3 questions when I was talking to you earlier. If you want those 3 questions, you can email cslpleasantvalley@gmail.com. And I'm sure Marcia will send those questions off to you, whatever. We've got practitioners, so many wonderful practitioners and ministers. So please email us. And here is our beloved Reverend Pamella Geagan.
And I am introducing Buzz right away. We are going on to having Buzz do our closing treatment. Buzzy, are you there?
I'm here and ready to go.
Good.
Hello, everyone, and thank you all for being here today. And I'm going to close us out with a brief treatment to allow us to connect with our spiritual perfection, our divinity that is within us, all of us, and within everything around us. So as I say these words in the first person, please make them your own. For I do know that right here and right now, in this particular momentary second, in the continuing evolution of the time and space continuum that we are part of, that there is one presence, one God, one infinite power, infinite emotion, infinite creativity that manifests all that is, including each and every one of us. And since I am here now as part of that creativity, I am connected to everything that is here on this planet, in this universe. And I know that through that connection, that as I go forth with my consciousness manifesting and motivated by love and acceptance, tolerance, forgiving, kindness, and compassion, these same qualities will come back to me tenfold through the infinite power that is God, that is the oneness of all that is. And I am so grateful to have heard from our reverends today about how no matter who we are or where we are, we can connect with that divinity. We connect with that oneness that is the Spirit of God, and know that our perfection can then be revealed readily and through us, each of us, as we go forth with that manifestation in our minds. It's here for me now. It's here for me to use, and I choose to use it for my good and for the good of everyone else that I'm connected with in this world. And I know that as I go forward with this motivation and this connection in my consciousness, my life will continue to unfold perfectly. And I thank God for the awareness of this ability to create the life that I have for myself and for everyone around me and everything and everyone that I'm connected to. And I send these words, this message, these notes on to the oneness that is God, the infinity that God represents, knowing that with the infinite power that is present in God, the details are easy to take care of, while I continue to focus my consciousness on love and kindness and compassion, and find ways to enjoy my life and bring joy to the life of everyone and everything else around me. And with this said, I send these words on and know that it is so. Thank you, God. And together we say in unison, and so it is.
It is.
And so it is. I send things back to Reverend Pam to close us out. Thank you.
Thank you. And today, magical, blissful, wonderful, fun and funny. And just thank you all for being with us and blessing us with your energetic presence today as I say goodbye and thank you to wonderful Reverend Mike. Where are you? There you are. Wave goodbye. Thank you, or do whatever you want. And also for Lynn Noe and Buzz Noe, and our wonderful Daniel, our Pamela Bailey, and behind the scenes, our wonderful Spencer Geagan, our producer director, and Marcia Beebe, who keeps everything organized for us, and Ivan Korlinski, who manages our Facebook page. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, rest of your week. See you soon. Mwah!